Hey Panthers, I have an exciting and innovative idea for you guys to try out. It's called blended learning. Now, I know that we have just begun to recover from our COVID year, but this blended learning is going to be way different and even better. So, if you didn't already know what blended learning is, here's an amazing infographic to give you a little information. And basically, blended learning is taking pieces of in-class and pieces of online learning and using them synchronously and asynchronously, depending on what kind of model you or your classroom is best fitted for. If you want a better definition, so what technically is blended learning, here it is. In part through online learning first, blended learning is any formal education program in which a student learns, at least in part, through online learning, with some elements of student control over time, place, path, and/or pace. Here's a couple of the blended learning models that are pretty popular. You may have heard of a rotation model, and that could be anything from a flipped classroom to a lab rotation to a station rotation, a flex model, a self-blended, or an enriched virtual model. Basically, you can pick and choose what fits best for you and how you want your kids to do both online and in-person learning. Here's the most common ones. Inside out, outside in, supplemental, mastery-based, the flipped classroom, remote, project-based, self-directed, flex, lab rotation, station rotation, and individual rotation. These are probably the most popular, but you can always put these together and blend. You might be asking, why would I do this? Why would I undertake this blended learning? What's the purpose? Here are some of the benefits. It's collaborative learning experiences for not only you, but also your students. It'll increase the accessibility of your students, and they're able to use a multitude of tools, and they'll have way more materials at their access than they would just in a brick and mortar classroom. Your students will grow to have better communication with themselves, with their classmates, with you, and eventually with adults. And a lot of successful evaluations because students are able to guide themselves through this process. They're able to receive feedback and they're able to work with you if needed. There are some struggles. One struggle, which I'm sure you guys have encountered, is a strong technological dependence. And students not having devices is a big thing that can definitely affect a blended learning classroom. The lack of IT knowledge is also a big thing. For instance, if every student is using a Chromebook, or if one student's using a Chromebook and one student's using a laptop and one student's using an iPad, there's all kinds of software and kids will need help. They'll have to troubleshoot. And if the teacher is not an expert, it'll be very difficult. Lastly, unfortunately, with this style, some students will fall behind because they are unable to keep up with the pace. And that's something that kids may or may not be able to overcome, in which case blended learning could be amazing or it could be a real struggle for some of your children. If you're interested in learning more about blended learning, here are some books. They've been cultivated by Jason Rode. You can check out Blended Learning in Higher Education, How to Design and Teach a Hybrid Course, Blended Learning, and the Essentials for Blended Learning. I'll be trying a blended learning model out in the year 21-22. So if you have any questions, feel free to come by and ask.